voice amazing.
Oh, hi everyone. We love you so much.
This is the best.
It's TSF.
Was it real though?
100 not.
Oh my god.
And you're listening to the Pipe Bomb Wrestling Podcast, baby.
That is right. It is bonus show time. Hello and welcome to the Pipe Bomb Wrestling Podcast, the show that is for the fans, by the fans. I am your phenomenal host, Mr. Podcasting, Chris Belcher. Thank you, TSF, for that wonderful intro. Joining me on this fabulous bonus show, it's WrestleMania week, Mr. Andy York. And Andy, we're here, man.
We're here, and I'm excited, man. I can't believe we're already here at the week of WrestleMania. And, last year we did this. I think last year we did matches, but this year we always like to do a list. I think we're both list people.
We are.
So we're going to do another list this year, and I'm looking forward to it.
Speaking of that, if you're a list person and you're enjoying our podcast after this bonus show coming up down the road in our podcast, we're going to start incorporating some more lists.
Yep.
So, we're both list people. We're both pretty good at it. So we might start incorporating that into our regular routine of our show. So stay tuned for that.
Especially with like some of the topics we do list on.
Yes.
We have different styles of wrestling, grew up in different eras of wrestling.
Oh, do we?
So this is going to be another one of those cases where I think a majority are going to be the same, but we're going to have a couple that I don't think either one of us have. Like, I think I have a couple you don't have. I think you will have a couple I don't have.
What we're talking about is we are counting down the top 10 WrestleMania moments of all time. So not matches, not events, moments.
Yep.
Singular moments that happened at WrestleMania. It is WrestleMania week.
Yep.
So again, we like to pepper you with bonus shows each and every day. If this is your first time checking out our show, thank you for doing that. Subscribe wherever you find your podcast, Apple, Spotify, Google, all those things. And make sure that you rate, review, all of those things. Follow us on social media at PBW Podcast, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. We have this show. We have our fantasy booking show on Tuesdays, the PBWF. You're listening to this on the Monday of WrestleMania.
Yep.
Tomorrow, premiere of Season 2 of the PBWF, our draft special. It's a lot of fun.
Yep.
Come check it out if you haven't already.
Yep, and I can tell you right now, Season 2 is going to be a wild one. So you definitely want to join us early on and stay caught up with us the entire time because it's going to be a lot of fun.
It is going to be a lot of fun. Let us not waste any more time, Andy. Let's get to it. Top 10 WrestleMania moments. And just like with any list that we do, whether it's on WrestleBuddy, which we write articles for, shout out to those guys, whether it's on this show, we got to hand out honorable mentions first.
Yep.
So, hand out your first honorable mention, Andy.
We said no matches, but the finish of a match or winning or whatever, moments in a match also count.
Yes.
Just throwing that out there. That's sort of on here. So I have 3 honorable mentions.
Yep.
My first one is the opening to WrestleMania 30 with Hogan, Rock, and Stone Cold. I think that's a fantastic opener. I think that's a great way to kick off the show. It's long, and Hogan screwing up the Silver Dome. It makes it funny. It's just, I think it's a great honorable mention.
Ladies and gentlemen, y'all about to witness a fight on this show.
Probably.
Go ahead. Keep going.
My other one
I'm not going to dog you.
That's fine. My other one is Shane jumping off of Hell in a Cell WrestleMania 32.
Oh, fun. Okay.
I think that's a fun one.
Okay.
And then this is the one where I'm pretty sure I'm going to get something thrown at me. Is the iconic WrestleMania moment. Absolutely the iconic WrestleMania moment. It's just not on my list. The Slam, Andre and Hogan. Here's why it's not in my moment. It's very iconic. It's the moment. It's just it is what it is. But it's honorable.
Do you
mention.
know how high that is on my list?
I know it's very high on your list.
Oh my God.
Here's the thing. A lot of mine are more modern WrestleMania because I remember vividly watching that happen and freaking out.
Sure.
So like this one I had to go back and enjoy, but part of going back and enjoying means I had to endure the Hogan-Andre match, which is not very good. So that's why it kind of takes away from me. But it being like number 1, 2, or 3 on your list, absolutely 1,000% valid.
Okay, all right.
Do you see where I'm coming from?
I get it.
Okay.
Still don't like it. I still think you're
fine.
wrong.
That's fine.
All right, my honorable mentions. Stone Cold Steve Austin turning heel.
Yeah.
WrestleMania 17. It's an honorable mention. I think if it would have, we talked recently on a podcast about the great things we got from it.
Yeah.
A lot more things than we realized maybe. It just sort of The moment in itself fell flat.
It fell out of place. The moment did.
It did. So the biggest rivalry ever, Steve Austin going with his arch nemesis, doesn't quite make my list though.
Yeah.
Speaking of his arch nemesis, an honorable mention is Vince McMahon getting his head shaved at WrestleMania 23.
Yeah.
The boss gets his head shaved.
Yeah.
A future president of the United States is there.
Yeah.
Stone Cold Steve Austin is there.
And what does he call Bobby? He didn't even call Bobby Lashley. He screws up Bobby's name multiple times.
Oh, I don't remember. Yeah, he does. That's right. That was also the era where we get Umanga.
Yes.
So just that whole situation is just, it belongs on an honorable mention at least.
Yeah.
And then my third one, I can't believe this one didn't make my list, but it does not. Hulk Hogan passing the torch to the Ultimate Warrior at WrestleMania 6.
Yeah.
The match in the ring, the moment in the ring, the handshake was not planned.
Right.
Wasn't supposed to happen.
Yeah.
But it did. Many argue that was Hogan just trying to take the spotlight, but whatever.
Not Hogan.
It's an iconic moment. It was the first ever WrestleMania main event where it was babyface versus babyface.
Yeah.
Hogan's first WrestleMania loss. All those things, but it just didn't quite make my list.
Yeah. Another one that I did not put on my list, but just for the comedic purposes, is Joe's poncho in WrestleMania 36.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's fantastic.
The whole opening to the night one of WrestleMania 36.
37
was my favorite thing WrestleMania has ever done, I think, because it was the most unscripted we've ever seen, and it all worked.
It's so funny because at WrestleMania 37, not to get off on a huge tangent, but at WrestleMania 37, we had an hour-long pre-show.
Yeah.
And everybody was excited about the fans. And then we see all the wrestlers come out. And then Vince does the thing with the fans. And everybody's excited. There is not a mention of a rain delay.
No.
At all during this pre-show. So we get the video package.
Yep.
We come on the air, and then everybody's in ponchos.
Joe and Michael Kohler in ponchos. We're killing like an hour before we can actually start WrestleMania. We start WrestleMania. Mandy Rose falls and slides like halfway down the ramp. WrestleMania 37 is a fever dream because a lot of bad stuff happened on WrestleMania 37.
A lot of good things
happened. But it's very memorable for that rain delay.
It definitely is. Maybe we should do a countdown of the worst WrestleMania moments.
Oh, there's a list. I've got 5 Bray Wyatt ones locked and ready to roll, I'm pretty sure.
Oh my gosh. All right, let's hit it. Top 10 WrestleMania moments of all time. We'll start at 10. And the way this works, ladies and gentlemen, is if Andy and I have a moment that we both have on our list, which is going to happen, we will pause when the other person has that moment come up. If it comes up later, that's when we'll talk about that. So we're not glossing over the conversation. We're just having the conversation at the exact same time. Number 10, what you got?
So mine are actually 2 different moments from 2 different WrestleManias, but the same. It'll make sense. I've titled it The Spears, meaning Edge spearing
somebody,
Jeff Hardy from the ladder, and then Edge spearing Mick Foley through the firing table. Like that to me is one of the craziest things, especially when you hear Edge talk about it. He says, I just tuck my face in Mick's big old belly and hope for the best. Like that to me is crazy that happened.
Both of those moments were just outside of my honorable mentions.
Yeah.
I had them. I made a list of like 25 and I had to narrow it down. And those were 2 that were certainly on there. I love Edge. I think those are absolutely, his 2 biggest WrestleMania moments ever. Even, winning at 27.
Yeah.
Or, whatever, or wrestling The Undertaker at 24.
Yeah.
These 2 just, it's awesome. Definitely, those are 2 that get played in almost every WrestleMania hype package ever, especially the Jeff Hardy one.
Yeah.
So yeah, for sure. My number 10 is I'm Sorry, I Love You.
I have that
Shawn Michaels and Ric Flair. You have that on your list. We'll talk about it when we get there.
Okay.
All right, number 9.
So number 9, I have, this is probably higher up on your list, but number 9, I have Macho and Miss Elizabeth.
Not even on my list.
Really? I'm surprised. Listen, it's one of the most wholesome wrestling moments of all time.
You're right.
To the point where I've gone back and watched it. Didn't grow up in this era. Wasn't even alive during this era.
Not even close to being alive.
Not even close to being alive. And it still gets me emotional just because of how well they did that. So it's one of my favorite WrestleMania moments.
It was that story. We talk about long stories, and we've been talking about the bloodline and all that kind of stuff. We talk about long stories. That Macho Elizabeth story went for so long because Elizabeth was at the center of the Hogan Macho story, and then he became the Macho King, and then it just an incredible 3-year run, I think is what it was.
Yeah. So it's one of my favorite. The when they hug and they embrace. Man, I'm like a blubbering baby over there. I love it.
It's amazing. All right, number 9 for me on my list, the return of the Hardy Boys.
I have that on my list as well.
WrestleMania 33. All right, we'll get to both of those in a minute.
Yep.
All right,
so this is where I have Shawn's retirement.
And number 8?
No, this is where I have the retirement. So I put Shawn and Flair kind of together because it's hard to.
I didn't put Shawn's retirement on my list, full disclosure.
But it's just kind of like the retirement. I think the reason why I did retirement is it's hard for me to consider I'm Sorry I Love You, Flair's actual retirement.
Good point.
But I think the moments themselves of Flair doing, or Shawn saying I'm sorry I love you, hitting the super kick, and Shawn doing the Taker throat slash. And then eating the tombstone. I think they both fit really well together.
Both of those were storytelling at their finest. Yeah. Absolutely. The Shawn Rick match. Shawn tells a story all the time about how he woke up in the middle of the night and he had a dream and he had this match.
Yeah.
He literally woke up and he's writing the whole thing down and he is just crying. Yeah. There's tears soaking the page and everything. And apparently they get to Mania rehearsals. I don't think it was day of. I think it was a couple of days before. They get there, and Shawn tells Rick, "You're not calling a single thing. You're not allowed. I've got it. Go be Ric Flair."
Yeah.
Shawn said, "I'll call the whole thing." Yeah. And Rick's like, "But I want to do this. I want to do that." Shawn's like, "No, shut up." Rick comes off the top rope in that match.
Yeah.
Rick does all these crazy things. It's just, it would have been so perfect if he'd have just stayed retired.
Yeah. Plus, like, Flair is already blubbering like a baby before he even eats. When he's getting up and putting his hands up like this, he's already gone.
Every time I go back and watch that, and they do a great job of shooting this, by the way.
Yeah.
Also, we talk about storytelling at its finest, camera work at its finest. Yeah. You know, they did a great job of this. But every time I go back and watch that, I try to see if I can figure out where he starts crying.
Yeah, I do
and
too.
I can't figure it out.
I can't pinpoint because I always look at this like, oh, he's already crying. Like I don't know where. I think he just cries throughout the entire match. I think he just like starts tearing up throughout the entire thing and then just loses it at the end.
He probably does. All right, what number are we on? We're on number 8. Okay, my number 8 is Daniel Bryan winning at WrestleMania 30.
That's on my list.
Okay. All right, we'll get there eventually. Yep. Number 7.
So number 7, I actually am switching on the spot.
Oh, I love this.
So I'm taking number 7 actually off my list completely. So I'm going to put it in my honorable mention.
Okay, you can't say. Okay, go ahead.
I put it in my honorable mention. Becky winning at WrestleMania 35.
I like it. Okay, cool.
Is I think it should have been up there. I think it's absolutely top 10 moment. This is going to be one that could be on the best and the worst for what it leads to.
Oh, Lord, here we go.
That is the 18 seconds. Sheamus beating Daniel Bryan in 18 seconds.
Wow. Not even close to on my
in the moment, horrible.
Yep.
What it leads to,
brilliant,
makes it absolutely fantastic. Yep. So I think that's why I have it so high. I think that's why I have it on my list is because of that.
Number 7, okay, fun. My number 7, we're going to talk about this one later, and you might get mad at me for how low or for where it's at, and it's not even any higher. The return of Cody Rhodes.
Yeah, that's higher on my list.
At WrestleMania 38. Is number 7 on my list because there's just a few more that I would love to put this higher on my list. I really would, but I can't.
Yeah. Experiencing it had to be higher on my list.
I can agree with that. And maybe if I do this again, like I'll rework it. But like I'm looking at my list right now, I might be able to move it up one more spot.
Yeah.
That's really it. All right, go ahead. Number 6.
My number 6, I may be cheating, but that's fine if I am. Because I don't really consider this a match. And that's the Firefly Funhouse from WrestleMania 36 between Cena and The Fiend. I know there's a finish. Even if I need to put, I'll even put kind of getting the heel turn Cena and the NWO. Like just the moments within that match. Mm-hmm. I think it's one of the most creative things WWE has ever done, especially at a WrestleMania, especially with the circumstances they were in. I think that they did it absolutely perfectly. So I think that's why it's so high on my list.
Could you imagine The pandemic hadn't happened, and we don't get that.
I know. Like I don't.
And
know
we don't
what
get
that
the Boneyard match.
I don't know what that match looks like at WrestleMania now. Like a match, a non-pandemic in front of the fans, The Fiend versus John Cena. I don't even want to know what that's like because of what the Firefly match was like.
I think it's probably a
squash.
A squash. Yep.
Cena gets squashed again.
Again.
Yeah.
Yep. It's hard to think that John Cena would get squashed.
He basically got squashed in this one.
Right. But what I'm saying is, like, in ring in front of fans.
Yeah.
It's hard to think that Cena would get squashed at 2 WrestleManias, but I do think he would have gotten squashed.
Especially with the 2 characters he would be in there with.
Yes.
It makes sense. But yeah. That one was the Boneyard match almost made it on this list too, because boy, that thing should not be fun, and I loved it.
I think it deserves an honorable mention for sure.
Yeah.
All right. My number 6, again, probably going to be higher on your list, so we'll talk about it in a minute, is the end of an era.
It's not on my list.
What?
It's not on my list. Because the match itself is so good. I can't put the whole, like, I just have to talk about the match itself.
Okay. The end of an era.
Because there's not really a moment. It's just the whole thing that I love.
It's the culmination
Yeah.
of 4 WrestleManias. It's a moment that was not supposed to happen.
No. I'll say this. It should have been Triple H's and The Undertaker's retirement match. It should have been both of their retirement matches.
I can agree with that.
Like, neither one of them. Obviously, we get Punk Taker the next year, which is fantastic. Neither one of them had another really high moment after that.
Triple H and Daniel Bryan? WrestleMania 30?
I get, yeah. But again, I don't think you need that. Like, I think
Triple H and Stephanie against Ronda and Kurt.
You could put anybody else in there. I think it's fine.
Triple H putting Seth Rollins over at 33.
Right. What I'm saying is, I think Triple H did like good stuff afterwards, but to end a career,
sure,
I don't think there was any other way that they could have done it. As like that would have been the perfect retirement end of a career match for both of them, especially Taker.
Yeah, Taker's the one you can certainly argue. Hindsight's obviously 20/20 there.
Right.
But, I mean, the match wasn't supposed to happen. Or, sorry, the moment wasn't supposed to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Just the way that those 3 were able to, like you said, really, it really is the end of an era.
Yeah.
And
you got JR on the call. And
yep.
Yeah.
Just, it deserves to be on
now,
the list.
I will give you this. The moment of the super kick into the pedigree and
Incredible.
then the kick out is one of the best sequences in WrestleMania.
One of the best false finishes of any,
of all time.
especially Taker matches.
Yeah.
Especially Taker matches.
Yeah. Every time I watch it, I'm like, this is it. Taker lost right here. Who remembers WrestleMania 30? This is it.
No, unfortunately, we all do, and it's coming later on the list.
That one's not on my list either because it's a bad WrestleMania moment.
Well, anyway. All right. Number 5.
Number 5 for me is the Hardys' return. This is where I have number 5. It honestly makes no sense how they got there because they literally worked for Ring of Honor the night before, and then they just showed up.
But the Ring of Honor show was in Orlando, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, but still, they worked for nobody would have thought when they were at the Ring of Honor show. Nobody would have guessed.
And they did a signing that day.
Yeah.
Like the day of WrestleMania, they did. I don't know if it was WrestleCon or what it was. I don't think it was.
I don't think WrestleCon was around during that time. Maybe
WrestleCon was around.
I guess.
Yeah, because it was around at 34 also, and that was the next year. But no, they had some sort of signing or some sort of. I may be really wrong here, but like Hardy Party pops in my head, like it was some sort of something that they were doing.
And when their music hit, it's one of the biggest reactions at WrestleMania of all time. Like,
no doubt.
It's every time I watch it, even going back and watching it, I get goosebumps from the pop that they get. So I absolutely love it. Obviously, one of the greatest tag teams of all time, making their triumphant return in a match that made them famous.
Yep, ladder match.
They go out and win it, like, just absolutely perfect.
And what made this moment even more was the New Day's reaction. When they have to announce
when they were acting like they were going to be the ones, and then it hits, and then Biggie's literally like jumping up and down. Like they sold it so well.
It was so good. It was such a good pop. One of the best. I dare say the best pop in WrestleMania history. I think it's up there.
It's up there.
I think it is absolutely.
It's up there. Yeah,
for sure.
Because obviously we were in the building for the Cody one, so we weren't able to
judge it
properly. Because I'm sure.
And that
sure, it
was
sounded like that. But that was indoors. This was outdoors, and it was still so daggum loud.
Yeah, it really was. All right, my number 5 may or may not be on your list. I hope it is. The stare down between The Rock and Hulk Hogan at WrestleMania 18.
That's not on my list.
This.
Yeah.
Credit to Josh Pate. Shout out to Josh Pate if he's listening. He calls this one of the last true flashbulb moments in the industry.
Yeah.
Because if you watch it,
oh man,
and they
they're
zoom
going crazy.
that camera out, the bulbs are flashing.
Yeah.
People are going nuts. Like these two guys knowing how to work a crowd.
Yeah.
And doing what they're doing. You put these two icons in the ring for a match.
Yeah. It's crazy. Yeah. It's hard for me, especially when we're talking about moments, it's hard to put like, other than finishes, it's hard to put moments from a match in this. So like that's part of the reason why it's not on there. You can't deny it's part of like the spear of like in every WrestleMania video package that's ever played. You get this.
Yep.
Like you start with the slam and this is like halfway through somewhere and it's crazy. One, it's crazy that this wasn't the main event.
Right.
But then two, it's just crazy the reaction both men got that night. It was absolutely ridiculous.
I feel like you always look at WrestleManias. I know a lot of people have that beef with that this wasn't the main event or what have you. I feel like you always look at WrestleMania and you can point out a match that we can argue should have been the main event over what we got.
I think especially recently, the main event of WrestleMania is not necessarily the biggest match on the card.
Right.
Like, maybe last year, you could probably say that. I don't know. Kevin Owens and Stone Cold is kind of a big match. But, like, WrestleMania 35, was that Orlando?
No,
33 was Orlando.
Yep.
WrestleMania 33, which is where the Hardys returned, and this, like, Kevin Owens and Chris Jericho possibly should have been the main event that night. Like,
and it was Roman Taker.
It was Roman Taker. So, like, there are multiple. WrestleMania 29, I think it should have been Punk and Taker.
Right.
So like there are multiple. No, WrestleMania 29 was Rock Cena. Never mind. But there were multiple matches that should be main events that aren't, and because they aren't, it kind of hurts the main event later on in the night. And this is one of those.
Yeah,
because I think Chris Jericho's in the main event, and Jericho has gone on record and saying, "I fought to not have us go on last."
Right.
And Triple H fought to have us go on last.
WrestleMania 25.
Yeah.
Triple H and Randy Orton went on last. What should have went on last? Sean
Taker.
Yep.
WrestleMania 26 should have been Sean Taker.
It was.
Was it?
They got it right in 26.
I thought they ended.
Nope.
No, I'm thinking of 27. 27 was Miz Cena.
Yes.
Yeah. 26 was Batista Cena.
Right.
Yeah.
No, 26. The world title match was Cena Batista, but the main event
was Sean Taker, which is the right call.
They got it right then, for sure. But you can look throughout history. I mean, WrestleMania 11, you had Lawrence Taylor and Bam Bam Bigelow in the main event, and you had Shawn Michaels and Diesel go steal the show. You know
WrestleMania 3 was...
3 was Hogan Andre.
Was that also the one with Macho and Steamboat?
Yeah, but you can't.
You can't, I know, but if we're talking about like match quality wise, should have been
match quality for sure.
But the attraction of Hogan Andre was that,
which we'll get to in just a minute. But Rock and Hogan, like this is iconic.
Yeah,
you look back on it and you can play armchair quarterback all you want.
Yeah.
Should this have been the spot to have Austin Hogan? Is it better that we had Rock and Hogan? Who knows?
Who knows?
You know?
Who knows? But the moment itself was fantastic.
Absolutely incredible. All right, let's go number 4.
Number 4, you have not mentioned yet, so I don't know if it's higher or not on your list at all. Kofi Mania.
Not on my list.
I don't understand. See, to me, this is one that I feel like you absolutely has to be on a top 10 moments list.
It was on my big list that I put together before I whittled it down.
Yeah, Kofi Mania.
If that makes you feel any better.
No. Kofi Mania... Again, one of the most wholesome moments in WrestleMania history. One of the most organic moments in WrestleMania history. And credit to Daniel Bryan for playing his part very well. I think this one gets overlooked, one, because of how freaking long WrestleMania 35 is.
Yes.
WrestleMania 35 was way too long.
I was there. It was so long.
But also, like, you had the main event of the women coming up. You started off the night with Seth and Brock.
Yep.
It's like this was kind of in the middle. But, man, the moment itself was fantastic. What happened afterwards, not necessarily as good, especially the how he lost the title because that still does not sit right with me.
No, I don't think it sits right with anybody.
But the moment itself at WrestleMania, I think you can't deny is one of the best WrestleMania moments of all time.
I agree with that. I mean, I think it's fantastic, and it's the culmination of an incredible story of, he had his first world title shot at the Elimination Chamber.
Yeah.
This was his first singles world title shot at this WrestleMania.
Yeah.
He gets it done. He has this really good run. They tried to put him with Randy Orton at a time where people were not that they weren't high on Randy Orton, but
this was during one of the lull moments of Randy's career.
Correct. Yeah, correct. I think the pandemic really helped Randy Orton and people appreciating him and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Neither here nor there. But yeah, you're right. The ending of Kofi's run was, to get to a Cain Velasquez match,
that
which
didn't mean anything at the end.
meant nothing.
Yeah.
Didn't need a world title for that. But anyway, beside the point. Kofi Mania, incredible. I was in the building for it. The pop was quite loud.
I figured it would be.
And
I'll say this. Byron Saxton gets on my nerves a lot. Byron Saxton during this.
It's a highlight of his career.
Fantastic. Yep. Absolutely fantastic.
It's a highlight of Byron's career for sure. My number 4 is one of your honorable mentions, and that is Hogan slamming Andre. I mean, think about it.
Yep.
Now, I get your justification, and I'm not going to tell you that you're wrong.
Right. Even though I am.
Should at least be on your list.
To make you feel any better, it was number 11 on my list of 10.
Andre had never been slammed on TV before.
Yeah.
Ever.
Right.
Before this moment. This was taking Hulkamania to a new level.
Yeah.
This is not one of my favorite moments.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm thinking WrestleMania,
it's one of the first things that pop up.
It's there. It's got to be. I absolutely tweet me. My Twitter handle is right down here at ChrisButcher24. I hate WrestleMania 3. One of my least favorite of all time.
Yeah.
Many people, it's their favorite of all time.
Yeah.
I can't stand it. But I also know.
Yeah.
Andre called this whole thing in the ring. Supposedly Hogan didn't know the finish, whatever, blah, blah. But man, just incredible.
Yeah.
So good.
It literally kicks off every WWE show.
It does.
Is the slam. So I fully understand it being so high on the list. Personally, it's a chore for me to get to the slam. That's part of the reason why I don't like it.
Good point.
It's, in a world of, it's going to sound weird, in a world full of Canadian destroyers and swanton bombs and everything else, a slam seems so little. In the context of what it meant and how it never happened before on TV. It happened before, but not televised. You can't deny that it's one of the best moments of all time, biggest moments of all time.
For sure. All right, number 3.
This is where I have Cody's return.
Okay.
To WrestleMania is number 3. The weeks of anticipation, the weeks of build, never
mind. Okay, go ahead.
Even when we basically knew it was going to be him while we were there's still the little doubt in my mind that Goldberg music is about to hit. And then when we heard Cody's music, man, I have been loud. I have been so loud a couple of times that I've almost passed out. You can see the hat I'm wearing. Kentucky, Florida, a couple years ago when we blocked the field goal, took it back to the house.
Yep.
One of those moments.
Yep.
I literally almost passed out at this WrestleMania.
Yep. I know.
I freaked out.
I was standing beside you. I know.
I freaked out because I never thought it would happen.
Sure.
I never thought this would happen. We would be getting Cody Rhodes versus Seth Rollins at WrestleMania.
Yep.
And it happened. And not the moment itself is great. If the match would have been bad or even subpar,
right,
it would have taken away from the moment. One of the best WrestleMania matches. It's up there as one of the 20 best WrestleMania matches probably. And it just makes the moment itself so much bigger.
Full disclosure, later on this week, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to do a watch along of this moment in this match.
Yep.
So
I won't scream as loud as I did.
Make sure that you subscribe to the feed. Excuse me, because that's coming up on Wednesday. So we're not going to give too much away with this, but because we won't talk about it. But ma'am, one thing I will say is you talk about Byron Saxton and his commentary on Kofi Mania.
Corey
Graves, freaking hit a grand slam with
did.
his commentary.
He did.
In this. And what was so good, man, is we were in the building for this and it was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But then when we went back and watched it with commentary, it just made it that much better.
The first thing we did when we got back in our hotel room, because that was night one.
Yes.
The first thing we did when we got back to the hotel room was, and listen, the night before we had been up for
30 straight
36 hours, 30, we were past 30. I think
it
we were
was
32,
between 30 and 34, something like that.
Yeah. One of the first things we did was go back and watch this.
Yeah.
Like, because we were both like, I need to hear, first off, I need to hear how loud the pop actually was.
Yeah.
And second of all, like, I want to see what they said during this.
Yeah.
Because commentary makes or breaks moments.
Yep.
And whew, they hit one out of the park.
They sure did. Like I said earlier, man, I really wanted this to be higher on my list.
Mm-hmm.
It came in at number 7 for me, but
Yeah.
it's only because there's just so much more. The last thing I'll say about this is I know that a lot of people downplay the war between AEW and WWE.
Yeah.
Most people really just, it is what it is, blah, blah, whatever. It's not a war. But we saw for so long, and this is not me picking at AEW people, we saw for so long AEW fans just firing shots and AEW firing shots and whatever. But when this happened, it was like it ain't cannon going across.
It was the first major blow WWE gave to AEW.
Because we, at this point,
this one.
Adam Cole's gone to
Adam
AEW.
Cole's in AEW. Bryan Danielson's in AEW.
CM Punk.
Punk's in AEW. FTR is in the height of their AEW run. Keith Lee's in AEW. Andrade, Malachi Black, like
Miro.
There's a lot of guys who we loved that were not treated in WWE very well. Jump ship. Bryan Danielson obviously was treated very well. Adam Cole, he was treated well in NXT. Don't think he'd have been treated well in the main roster by Vince. Jump ship. And all of a sudden, the guy that was like the center of, not the center, but one of the guys at the center of starting the company, probably the moral backbone of AEW, is now back in WWE, which we never thought would happen. It was crazy.
Yeah, so all of those were little bitty shots. This was a cannon coming across the other side. So WWE didn't take many shots, but when they took them, they took big ones. All right, number 3 moment. That was number 3, right?
Yep.
That was your number 3.
Yep.
My number 3 is the moment that you say couldn't be on your list. Austin, Hogan, and Rock.
Yeah.
WrestleMania 30. It just, to me, it doesn't get bigger than this.
Yeah, it's a big moment.
The 3 biggest stars of all time in the ring, kicking off WrestleMania. I get goosebumps every time I watch it.
No, I completely agree. I think, just to be completely transparent, I have a hard time watching Hogan. Like, I believe that. Even old Hogan stuff. Like, I never got the thing about Hogan. But then again, I didn't grow up in that era.
Right.
So like I fully understand how he's a big star. I fully get that. But being in there with literally three of the most influential, 3 of the most recognized wrestlers of all time, like, it's a weird WrestleMania to kick the show off like that.
Sure.
Like, I don't understand the significance of WrestleMania. I think because they knew what was going to happen later on in the night, they were like, oh, we got to throw these 3 out here to make people happy. It's crazy. Like, it's crazy that's how it started off.
But it was incredible.
It was amazing. It was fantastic.
Something that we'll probably never see.
JBL was JBL on commentary that night?
Yes, he was.
JBL freaking out on commentary. Because I also remember WrestleMania 32 when a League of Nations just beat New Day. And Shawn comes out, Foley comes out, and then Stone Cold's music hits. And all I remember is JBL going, no, he's not. He's not here. He's not here. And Stone Cold comes running out.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
All right. Number 2.
Number 2 for me is the Miracle on Bourbon Street. Is Daniel Bryan winning at WrestleMania 30. The best finish to a WrestleMania. I think the second best finish to a WrestleMania, because my number 1's probably the best finish to a WrestleMania. But like this story that Daniel Bryan fans and WWE fans have been on to get to that point.
Yep.
from Randy Orton from Triple H turning on him at SummerSlam.
Yep.
Randy Orton going on his run, injuries that Daniel Bryan had faced, all of this other stuff. It seemed like this moment was never possible.
Right.
It finally happened. And then to add even more to it, man, when you listen to that Connor's cure or whatever, and the kid that's sitting up front and the whole story behind it, it makes it so much better. It makes it so much better.
It definitely does. And, to hear Daniel Bryan talk, I think it was an interview he did recently where he said they told him even after 30 that he wasn't the guy.
Yeah.
He was not the number one guy in the company.
Yeah.
And just so this was one of the first real the fans get what they want moments that we can really pinpoint.
This is one of the first the fans are going to take over until we get our moment.
Right.
Like we'll sit by and let you do Cena. We'll boo and we'll say Cena sucks and everything else. But they were literally taking over shows for Daniel Bryan. I mean, the most iconic thing from a Monday Night Raw that I can remember is all those former champions in the ring. You've got Punk, you've got Mark Henry, you've got Cena, you've got Randy, you've got Shawn, you've got all these guys. The entire place is chanting Daniel Bryan.
Yep.
So much that Mark Henry raises his hand like to get a little cheap pop for himself. Punk's laughing the whole time because he knows when they're that passionate about somebody, they're going to force it.
Yep.
And he may not have been WWE's guy, but in this moment, he was the fans' number one guy.
Yep.
And there's no denying it.
He definitely was. That comes in at number 8 on my list. Let's go ahead and talk about my number 2, which is your number 1.
Probably.
Oh, it definitely is. I know it is. Seth Rollins cashing in at WrestleMania 31.
Greatest cash in of all time.
Another give the fans what they want moment, man. We just talked about it with Bryan. I mean, a match that first of all, let's look back on this Brock Lesnar Roman Reigns match for a minute, because at the time, we didn't want it.
No.
At the time, people just hated it. Looking back on it, this is the best Brock and Roman match.
Listen, the build to this match is horrible.
Yep.
Absolutely horrible. You have the Monday before playing tug of war with the WWE Championship.
Yep.
And then we get to here, and all of a sudden, this match is really good. Brock and Roman kill it in this match because Roman's getting bullied the whole time.
Yep.
But he's
laughing about it.
Laughing the whole time. He's bleeding from his mouth as he does it. He looks like an absolute killer.
Yep.
He sends Brock face first into the ring post, which busts Brock open.
Yep.
And nobody wanted Roman to win.
Nope.
Nobody wanted Brock to win.
So we got the best.
Nobody
of both worlds.
thought Seth was going to cash in.
Right.
I remember they're both down. That music hits and the place goes crazy.
Yep.
Absolutely crazy. And I love the fact that even when he cashed in, he didn't win right away.
Right.
It was a little build, but man, when he won, that place went crazy. Him swinging that championship on top of the stage, all of it, pyro going off behind him. Roman's family is livid in the front row. All of it's just fantastic.
I mean, it's newsworthy. You think front page newspaper guy that's not supposed to be in the main event comes out of the biggest show of the year as champion.
And has a fantastic run after.
Wait a minute. What just happened?
Yeah.
What just happened? So it's one of those. It's definitely shocking.
Yeah.
It's incredible. It's one of those that again gets played just like the rest of them. Made Seth Rollins' career.
Yeah.
Nobody will ever forget this moment. It's one of those where you can pinpoint. Hulkamania started in January of '84 when he leg dropped Iron Sheik, and here we go. Or you name it.
Mm-hmm.
There are moments you can pinpoint.
Stone Cold started with Austin 316.
The Bret Hart sharpshooter thing. Whatever. Daniel Bryan winning at WrestleMania 30. You can I know he was big before then.
Right.
But you can pinpoint the moment where a guy gets put on the map.
Yeah.
This is it for Seth Rollins.
Yeah. I think, honestly, if you talk about the two biggest moments in Seth Rollins' career, they happened during this time period.
Yep.
When he turned on the Shield.
Yep.
And then this.
Yep.
Those were not the two. I'm not going to say they're the greatest accomplishments of his career. But when you think about the career of Seth Rollins, these are the first two things that really pop into your mind.
Sure it is.
Then you talk about the Rumble win. You talk about his feud, his fantastic feud with Dean Ambrose in 2015.
Yep.
I mean, amazing feud. This is my favorite WrestleMania moment. When I want to watch a WrestleMania moment, this is the one that I go back and watch every single time. Is this one?
My number one is not my favorite. My number one is not even close to being my favorite.
Yeah.
But if you're putting a WrestleMania list together, the top moments,
I couldn't do it.
you can't put anything over this. Like, favoritism aside,
Yeah.
I can't put anything over this.
Yeah.
The Undertaker streak ending. I can't.
For better or for worse.
Yeah.
You can't.
It's number one.
I will go to my grave saying it never should have happened. Or at least it shouldn't have happened until it was his last one.
I agree with that. And here's what I'll say. Here's my hot take. I didn't want it to happen. It shouldn't have happened. But if it did happen, yes, it should have been his last one. And yes, it should have been Brock.
See, I don't agree with the Brock. I don't think Brock needed it.
But Brock is so big now.
Yeah.
Brock's run after this.
Yeah.
Yes, Brock had a great run with Cena when he came back in 2012. 12? Yeah. Had a great run with Punk. But this took him. Now, I agree, if it would have been Roman, would have absolutely skyrocketed him 3 years before he's been skyrocketed.
Yeah.
You could have picked Seth Rollins, or you could have picked Bray Wyatt. Fill in the blank.
Yeah.
Yes, it would have helped them tremendously. But Brock Lesnar is the megastar that he is because of this.
Yeah. I agree. Well, I sort of agree because I think Brock was going to be a megastar no matter what because he's Brock.
Sure.
And I think you could have done the same thing where he squashes Cena. You don't do the WrestleMania match, but he squashes Cena and he goes on his tear or whatever. I feel like that was going to happen no matter what.
Yeah.
I feel like if Brock or if Taker's streak was going to end, it should have ended to elevate a young guy's career.
And
Not a Brock,
yeah.
not even a Roman. Like, if you were going to end it, you should have ended it with Randy.
Here's the thing. I agree with that.
Because that would have elevated Randy quicker. Or, because I know they were going to do it, and he refused to do it, but Edge.
Right. Yeah. But here's the thing we got to think about with Brock. We think about Brock as this big-time star already or what have you.
Yeah.
Brock was only in the 4th year of his career at this point.
Right.
Because Brock ran from the summer of, or from
02.
WrestleMania 02 to WrestleMania 04.
Mm-hmm.
Then he came back the night after WrestleMania in 2012.
And this
is in 14.
Yeah.
So we're, in theory, yes, he's a star.
Right.
But we're only 4 years into his run.
Right. But with the UFC career behind him and everything else, like I feel like there was a lot of other people that would have benefited from this more than Brock. However, two of the most iconic moments happened after this match was over was Paul Heyman sliding into the ring with his hands on his face, screaming, "Oh my God!" And then you got the dude in the front row with his eyes like that. Like those are the two most iconic moments. It's just in my opinion, it never should have happened.
I agree.
Never.
It shouldn't have ever happened.
Even on Taker's like, if you were going to do it, it should have been Taker's last. Even then, shouldn't have happened.
Well, I tell you what, when I was making this list, by the way, for those of you who don't know this is number one on my list. I've literally only watched this one time.
Yeah.
Literally one time.
I think I've only watched it once.
One time, plenty. And I went years.
Yeah.
I think I went 5 years without watching it.
Because this is during the time period where you won't watch anymore.
Right. I got back in right at, like, very shortly after this, I think.
Yeah.
But I've only watched this once, but it belongs number one on my list.
Yep.
It just has to be.
Yeah.
When I was making my list and whittling it down, the first thing I wrote down was end of the streak, number one.
Yeah. First, that was the same way, but mine was first, number one, Seth. Just all I put was Seth. Yeah. It's one of those that goes on both the worst and the best moments in WrestleMania history because it's iconic and
but it sucks.
It sucks.
It sucks.
And it deflates the entire crowd.
But then they get hyped back up with Daniel Bryan.
They do.
Thank the Lord for Daniel Bryan.
If
book in WrestleMania with Bryan and with the three guys at the beginning, and you put Taker in the middle.
Yeah, which is the best way to do that because could you imagine if Randy would have retained or Batista would have won?
I know.
Like, it wouldn't have. I don't think there would have been boos. I think it would have just been silence.
It would have been crazy.
Like silence, pure silence.
And that's what you get with WrestleMania moments, man. It's a reaction because silence is a reaction.
Right.
You know, people are stunned. People are, whatever.
Because when Taker lost, it was silence. Like it was
nothing.
It was quiet. Yep. And like I think Justin Roberts was still ring announcing. He waited because he even has said like,
yeah, you read in his book. He says I didn't know
this was the finish. Yep. I didn't know that was happening.
Nobody knew.
And then all of a sudden I get told in my ear, announce it. And I'm like, I don't want to announce it. Like I don't really want to do this right now.
That is absolutely the truth.
Because like commentary bailed out, like it was just it was silent. All you heard was Paul screaming, "Oh my god!"
Which is why it's number one on my list. It just as much as it hurts, I got to put it there. All right, man. It's WrestleMania week.
It is
a lot of fun stuff. Appreciate you guys hanging out with us. You can go check out even though I've said everything I need to say, you can go check out the written version of this over on WrestleBuddy. Go check it out. Top 10 WrestleMania moments written by me.
I'll probably do one as well.
And then you'll do one as well, and you'll hear what Andy has to say. All right. For those of you who are new to our podcast, thank you for joining us. Make sure you subscribe wherever you find your podcast. Make sure that you are rate, review, subscribe. Follow us on social media at PBW Podcast, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. It's WrestleMania week. I'm going to be there. Going to post some stuff. You don't want to miss it.
Yep.
I'll make you jealous.
I know. I'm already jealous.
I know you are. All right, ladies and gentlemen, for Mr. Andy York, my name is Chris Belcher. Thank you for hanging out with us on this bonus edition of the Pipe Bomb Wrestling Podcast. Go check out PBWF tomorrow and check out the rest of the week. We will catch you guys tomorrow.